back to All About That Disney Life. I am Danny B, the girl who is all about that Disney life. The next movie that we will be talking about is Alice in Wonderland, which came out in 1951. Now let's get to know the cast who helped make this movie possible. We had Catherine Beaumont, who was Alice, Ed Wynn as the Mad Hatter, Jerry Colonna as the March Hare, Richard Hayden as the Caterpillar, Sterling Holloway as the Cheshire Cat, Verna Felton was the Queen of Hearts, J. Pat O'Malley was Tweedledee, Tweedledum, the Walrus, the Carpenter, and the Mother Oyster. Bill Thompson was the White Rabbit, the Dodo, and Pat. Heather Angel was Alice's older sister. Joseph Kearns was the Doorknob. Larry Gray was Bill the Lizard. Queenie Leonard was the Bird in the Tree and Snooty Iris. Dink Trout was the King of Hearts. Doris Lloyd was the Red Rose. Jimmy McDonald was the Dormouse and a Flamingo. The Mellow Men, which were Thurl Ravenscroft, Max Smith, and Bob Hamlin, they were the Card Painters. Don Barclay was the Card Soldiers. Lucille Bliss was the Lazy Daisies and the Tulips. Pinto Colvig was the Flamingos. Jimmy and Tommy Lusk were the Young Pansies. Marnie Nixon were the Singing Flowers. Norma Zimmer was the White Rose. Erdman Penner was the Eagle. And Ken Beaumont was another card painter. Now we get down to all the facts about Alice in Wonderland, so let's go down that rabbit hole, shall we? Number 1, how Disney found Wonderland. Disney had read all of the Alice in Wonderland stories by author Lewis Carroll as a child. He read Alice in Wonderland, which came out in 1865, and Alice Through the Looking Glass, which came out in 1871. In 1923, Disney was working at the Laugh-O-Gram studio in Kansas City, which is where he was born and raised. And he was making a cartoon series called Newman Laugh-O-Grams. The last one that he helped make was called Alice's Wonderland. It had a live actor named Virginia Davis interacting with an animated world. In 1933, Disney thought about making a full-length animated and live-action movie of Alice in Wonderland starring Mary Pickford. That idea got put onto hold in favor of Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, and Paramount had just come out with a live-action version of Alice in Wonderland in 1933. However, Disney made a Mickey Mouse cartoon in 1936 called Through the Mirror, where Mickey goes through a mirror and he enters a house and all the objects are alive. In 1938, Disney bought the film rights with Sir John Tinsel's illustrations and registered with the Motion Picture Association of America. But then World War II happened, and we all know what happened with Disney Studios in World War II, so we're not going to bring it up again. In the fall of 1945, after the war ended, Disney got right back into making Alice in Wonderland a full-length feature film. He hired British author Aldous Huxley to help rewrite the script that he had originally created back in the 30s. He still thought about making a live-action and an animated version of Alice in Wonderland that would star Ginger Rogers. Lisa Davis and Luana Patton were also considered for the role of Alice. Disney then changed his mind and decided to make a full-length animated movie, and he began working on that in 1946. Number 2, the release. The movie premiered in London at the Leicester Square Theatre on July 26, 1951, and in New York City on July 28, 1951. During its first theatrical run, the movie was released as a double feature with the True Life Adventures documentary short. The movie was released as a second episode of Walt Disney's Disneyland TV series on ABC on November 3rd, 1954. The movie was then re-released into theaters in 1974, and it was re-released in the UK on July 26, 1979. Number 3, the box office. During its first release, this movie made $2.4 million in domestic rentals. Because of the movie's budget of $3 million, the studio wrote a $1 million loss, so it wasn't a big deal. When it was re-released in 1974, the movie made $3.5 million in domestic rentals. Number 4, some award nominations. Alice in Wonderland was nominated for an Academy Award for Best Scoring of a Musical Picture, but it lost to An American in Paris. This movie was also nominated for a Golden Lion at the Venice International Film Festival, but it lost to Rashomon. Number 5, Alice characters found in other Disney movies. In Donald in Magic Land, Donald wears a Alice dress and an Alice hairstyle. Bill the Lizard is one of Ratigan's henchmen in The Great Mouse Detective. The characters have also been guests on the TV series The House of Mouse, and the Queen of Hearts was one of the villains featured in Mickey's House of Villains. The Mad Hatter was also featured in Mickey's Magical Christmas snowed in at the House of Mouse. The Mad Hatter and the March Hare made several appearances in episodes of Bonkers. Bill the Lizard, Tweedledum, the Cheshire Cat, and the Doorknob also made cameos in the 1988 film Who Framed Roger Rabbit. In the opening of Aladdin, the peddler tries to sell the pipe thing that the caterpillar has in the movie. In Aladdin and the King of Thieves, the genie turns into the White Rabbit. Weibo shows clips of Alice in Wonderland on her screen in Flubber. An episode of Mickey Mouse Clubhouse called Mickey's Wonderland is also based on the film. During the song When You Wish Upon a Star from Pinocchio, there is a book of Alice in Wonderland on the shelf where Jiminy Cricket is in the beginning of the movie singing, even though Alice in Wonderland came out 11 years later. Alice and the Cheshire Cat make cameo appearances in the episodes of The Wonderful World of Mickey Mouse. Number 6, rides at Disney Park. The first Alice ride that's in some of the Disney parks. The ride is called Alice in Wonderland and is a dark ride that is at Fantasyland at Disneyland, which opened on June 14th, 1958. During the 1980s, many parts of Fantasyland were torn down and rebuilt, including this attraction. But the ride reopened in April of 1984. Also, there is an Alice in Wonderland adventure ride in Disneyland Paris, which opened in 1992. The next Alice theme ride that is at majority of the Disney parks is the Mad Hatter's Tea Party ride. You know that ride when you get into the cups and you spin around until you puke? Yeah, basically that ride. So there is the Mad Tea Party ride at Disneyland, California, which opened July 17th, 1955. There is a Mad Tea Party ride at Magic Kingdom, which opened on October 1st, 1971. There is Alice's Tea Party in Tokyo, Disneyland, which opened on March 8th, 1986. And there's the Mad Hatter's Teacups at Disneyland Paris, which opened on April 12th, 1992. There's also the Mad Hatter Teacups at Hong Kong Disneyland, which opened on September 12th, 2005. And all of the teacup rides are located in the Fantasyland parts of the resort, except for Tokyo. Number 7, where can we find the characters of Alice in Wonderland? Well, if you bear with me, this is a pretty big list like the one for Cinderella, so be patient with me and I will get through this the best that I can. So here we go. Starting off with Disneyland. Alice is included at the daily marching band concerts at the Main Street entrance, playing a game of musical chairs with the Mad Hatter and some of the guests. They'll call up some of the little kids in the audience to play musical chairs with them. Alice is also seen in Fantasmic and Disney's Electrical Parade. There is also an animatronic of Alice in the It's a Small World ride. Occasionally, Alice and the Mad Hatter will be on a Storybook Land canal and provide guests with their own versions of spelling for different words. The Mad Hatter hosts the musical chairs game, and there's also an animatronic of the Mad Hatter at the It's a Small World ride. The March Hare also has an animatronic of himself at the It's a Small World ride. The Caterpillar can be seen at the Alice in Wonderland Dark Ride attraction as an audio animatronic during the Flower Garden scene. A statue of the Cheshire Cat can be seen in a small hole in the rabbit hole building that surrounds the Alice in Wonderland attraction. He also appears as an audio animatronic on the ride in the Tulgey Wood scene. The cat also appears in the ride's finale as a giant head just before the Mad Tea Party scene. Unfortunately, that part got removed during the refurbishment in 2014. He also appears during the World of Colors finale, and his face is shown in the water projectors. The Queen of Hearts also appears as an audio animatronic on the ride. She is also available for meet and greets on Main Street, USA. She can also occasionally be seen participating in the musical chairs game. The Queen of Hearts is also seen with other Disney villains during Halloween, like Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween Party and the Oogie Boogie Bash. Tweedledee and Tweedledum are also on the Alice Dark Ride, giving different directions where to find the White Rabbit. They also make appearances occasionally during the musical Chairs games as well. The White Rabbit occasionally makes appearances at the musical Chairs game as well. The White Rabbit is also an audio animatronic on the Alice Dark Ride. In the hub of Disneyland, there is a statue of the White Rabbit, and the White Rabbit is also in Fantasmic. And he made a cameo during the Genie segment of the 2017 revamped version. The doorknob. Can you believe that you can actually see the doorknob from the movie? The doorknob appears at the ride in the beginning, and the King of Hearts is on the ride as well as an audio animatronic. Next park, Walt Disney World. Alice can be seen at the United Kingdom Pavilion at Epcot's World Showcase. Alice also appears with the White Rabbit and the Mad Hatter in the Festival of Fantasy Parade at Magic Kingdom. Alice and the Mad Hatter also are in the Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween Parade, the Boo to You Parade, and also the party. Alice is also available for meet and greets near the Mad Tea Party ride with or without the Mad Hatter and the Queen of Hearts. The Mad Hatter appears in the bubble montage of Hollywood Studios' Fantasmic, and he is also on the riverboat in the finale. The Mad Hatter also has a spell card at the attraction Sorcerers of the Magic Kingdom called Mad Hatter's Tea Time. The March Hare has also a small cameo in Fantasmic during the bubble montage. And the March Hare is also seen as a topiary in front of the Mad Tea Party ride. The Cheshire Cat also makes an appearance during the bubble montage of Fantasmic. The Cheshire Cat's form briefly looks over Cinderella's castle at one point during the show Celebrate the Magic at Magic Kingdom. The Queen of Hearts has her own spell card called the Queen of Hearts Card Army at Sorcerers of the Magic Kingdom. She is one of the villains in Disney's Villains Mix and Mingle. And she was one of the villains who appears in Disney's Not So Spooky Spectacular. During Halloween, she could be seen during Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween Party for meet and greets and the Boo to You Parade. At Hollywood Studios in 2013 and 2014, the Queen of Hearts was present during the Unleash the Villains event. In 2016, she debuted as a face character during the Club Villain event. The Queen of Hearts was also among the villains featured in Wonderful World of Animation. Tweedledee and Tweedledum are seen during the bubble montage at Fantasmic. The White Rabbit makes occasional appearances near the Mad Tea Party ride for meet and greets. He is a character in Mickey's Most Merriest Celebration. He is seen in the bubble montage at Fantasmic. There was an interactive animatronic doorknob for private parties in 2015 and 2018. The Dormouse also appears, popping his head in and out of the teapot at the Mad Tea Party ride. Next park, Tokyo Disney Resort. Alice appears daily at the Happiness is Here parade at daytime, and she's in the Electrical Parade Dreamlights at nighttime. At the Castle Show, Once Upon a Time, she appears in the first segment centered around her adventures. You can also see Alice at the Queen of Hearts Banquet Hall. Alice also has meet and greets at the Teacups attraction at the resort. The Mad Hatter appears with the March Hare and the Dormouse during Alice's segment in Once Upon a Time Castle Show, and he was part of the Happiness is Here parade. The Mad Hatter and the March Hare appear in Dreaming Up. The Mad Hatter also has a statue outside of the Queen of Hearts Banquet Hall, and he also appears in a stained glass window. The March Hare is featured around the Queen of Hearts Banquet Hall dining area. The Cheshire Cat appears with Alice in the Electrical Parade Dreamlights. The Cheshire Cat also appears during the Once Upon a Time Castle Show, and he makes daily appearances during the Dreaming Up Parade. The Queen of Hearts was the inspiration for the Queen of Hearts Banquet Hall. There's a statue of her and the King of Hearts displayed overlooking the hall. The Queen of Hearts is also found in Fantasyland for meet and greets. She also appears in Alice's segment of the Castle Show Once Upon a Time. She makes daily appearances during the Dreaming Up Parade. The White Rabbit appears during Alice's segment of Once Upon a Time Castle Show, and he is found in Fantasyland for meet and greets. There is a statue of the White Rabbit outside of the Queen of Hearts Banquet Hall. There is also a stained glass window or some reference to the White Rabbit in the Queen of Hearts Banquet Hall. During the former Easter Parade, Hippity Hoppity Springtime, the White Rabbit was seen coaching Goofy and Max for the Easter egg relay race. The King of Hearts returned as a walk-around character in the Happiness is Here and Dreaming Up parades. Next park, Disneyland Paris. Alice is the namesake for Alice's Curious Labyrinth. It's a maze exhibit inspired by scenes from the movie. She is spotted near the park's own teacups for meet and greets. She also makes a brief appearance in Disney Dreams. The Mad Hatter appeared in Disney Magic on Parade. In 2013, he was part of the Disney Dreamers Everywhere. In 2013, the March Hare returned as a meet and greet character, and he also returned again in 2016, where he joined other classic rabbits from other Disney films in the Easter festivities. And there is also a quick service area named after the March Hare. There is an animatronic of the caterpillar on Alice's Curious Labyrinth after you exit the Tulgey Wood. There is a statue of the Cheshire Cat in Alice's Curious Labyrinth, and his grin is seen at the attractions garden. In 2013, the Cheshire Cat returned as a meet and greet character. The White Rabbit is seen during Disney Magic on Parade. He's also present at Alice's Curious Labyrinth maze. The Dormouse appears in Alice in Wonderland ride and the Mad Tea Party attraction. The King of Hearts is featured in Alice's Curious Labyrinth maze. Next park, Hong Kong Disneyland. Alice appears in Fantasyland for meet and greets. Alice also appears during the bubble montage of Disney in the Stars Castle show, and she has her own segment inspired by the movie. The Cheshire Cat appears briefly during Alice's segment of Disney in the Stars. During Halloween, the Queen of Hearts is seen in the Villains Night Out Parade, and the Dormouse is seen on the Alice ride as well. Last park, Shanghai Disneyland. The Queen of Hearts appears as a face character as a featured villain in Villain's Cavalcade. She has a float that is accompanied by the Queen's Guardsmen from the Tim Burton's version of Alice in Wonderland instead of her card army. And that is it. We are out of the rabbit hole, back to reality, and out of Wonderland. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you liked it, please hit that like button and don't forget to subscribe and leave a comment down below. And I hope you have a zippity-doo-dah day. Goodbye.